Teachers vote. Stay remote. Teachers vote. Stay remote. Teachers vote. Stay remote.
All right, those protests right there did not fall on deaf ears. 24 hours ago, we were with parents and teachers outside of Benjamin Cardozo High School in Bayside, Queens, concerned about school reopening plans. We now know that the city decided to delay the start of classes. It was a shocking reversal from just a few days ago. What a roller coaster of a ride it's been for parents, teachers, and staff, right? UFT president had a lot to do with it, and he joins me this morning on this important morning. So good morning to you once again, Michael Mulgrew.
Good morning. I hope you're well.
I'm doing well, thank you, and hope you are as well. So you have been in constant communication with the mayor's office and the Department of Education. You've been on our show many times talking about this. What was the straw this time? Because it seems like every time we're talking about another change. What was the straw this time that broke the camel's back and forced another delay here?
It was the main piece at this point was the staffing. You couldn't open your school safely on Monday unless we dealt with the staffing issue, which has been on the table for months. We still have issues with. We still have some ventilation issues, but most of them have been cleared up. But there's still some PPE. We should have most of that all taken care of by the end of this weekend. We still have safety procedures at schools that haven't been worked out. But the big issue was there was no way to open schools safely on Monday, and we just said you can't do it.
But staffing
because you don't have the staff.
Staffing wasn't a new issue, right? I mean, you've been screaming it.
No.
Principals have been screaming it. Teachers themselves have been screaming it all summer long. So why all of a sudden did it suddenly become an issue? Was nobody listening to you and these concerns all summer long?
My conversation with the mayor on Wednesday was basically that you cannot open a school unless you have a teacher for every classroom. We cannot put all the children in the auditorium because that breaks all the safety protocols, and you're going to start having all sorts of safety issues. So you don't have the teachers. We have to invest in education. We have to hire teachers. We knew going into trying to open schools that we had to increase budget, not decrease budget. And at that point in time, what had been happening is a decrease in budget, hiring freeze, and actually threatened layoffs. So basically said, we're not allowing children to come into school unless we have a teacher for every classroom.
And will you have that by October 1st when everybody's supposed to be back up and running? Because the mayor said he's adding additional 4,500 calls to hire positions. The principals union saying they need 10,000. You're saying somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000. Can you get that kind of number in just a few weeks?
We should be able to because we didn't hire any teachers. All of the ed school graduates, unless you were a special education or a very limited license, all the common branch, English, social studies, they were not able to be hired. So now we're saying to all of them, and I know that the city has reached out to CUNY. CUNY has sent out an email to all their graduates that New York City is now ready to hire.
Earlier this week, we learned that 55 school employees tested positive for COVID-19. This was a big concern of yours. The mayor downplayed that number, but you believe it could actually be higher. I'm curious as to why you think it could be higher and what could be done about it.
No, what we were concerned with is that the way they set up their system for testing and then contact tracing was not working. So we did a lot of media on it last week, a lot of conversations. To their credit, they said it wasn't working, and they set up what they now call this situation room. So now we're getting our test results back as long as they go to an H&H fast track facility. We're getting our test results back in 24 hours. We seem, the contact tracing still has some work to do. People who do that work need to ask specific questions when it comes to a school employees, because you have to see who they've been in contact with with the working day of a school. But that's gotten better. It's not where we need it to be yet, but at least we've seen the improvement.
All right, and let me talk about this. The UFT's independent inspections found schools with some ventilation issues and no PPE, which you addressed, right? How many of them are ready to actually receive students come next week?
Well, one of our schools is probably not a large school in Manhattan, Martin Luther King Complex, is not going to be ready. Some other schools are ready for now. There's still more work to be done on them because right now the ventilation is passing all inspections, but if they turn on their heating systems, that could be problematic. But we have a lot of people are pitching in on that. We have some private companies, corporations from the city helping, as well as some independent contractors that were hired by the DOE. But we have to stay on top of that one. So, look, this is a major challenge, and every other large school system ran away from it.
No, I know.
We're not.
Let me ask you this, though, because it's such a roller coaster ride for parents and your own staff, teachers, who are trying to figure out what to do, form their lessons plans. Parents are trying to figure out what to do with their own jobs versus taking care of their kids. Do you think, and you've been in the conversations in the City Hall, that there is a possibility that things could go all remote?
That's really about the virus. If the virus spikes up, yes, that would be the determining factor to everything going all remote. It's the infection rate of the virus. That's the only thing that would cause us to go all remote. The mayor's made it very clear that he is not going to go all remote at any cost unless it's the virus itself that causes it. He, like I, agree that you cannot have a substitute for in-person education. There's nothing better than it. That determination was made by the mayor very early. Yeah. And, some people might not like it, but that is the determination. Our infection rate is low, but we're going to make sure we have safer things in place, more safe policies in place than any other school district, which is why this has been a roller coaster.
Of course. It's not an easy decision. I know everybody knows that. So where do we go from here? Let me ask you this last question here about teachers who are teaching certain subjects, right? If you're a gym teacher, right, you're not doing gym now, what are you teaching? Are teachers qualified to teach other kinds of lesson plans? If they're a social studies teacher, are they going to be assigned math, for instance?
Our phys ed teachers would take great offense to what you just said. They're teaching phys ed.
Oh, no, I know, but I was reading some things that were saying that some phys ed teachers are being assigned to teach like a math class, for example.
If that's happening, it's because you're allowed to teach one class out of license, or the majority of your the majority of your program has to be in license. But the phys ed a lot of phys ed teachers do teach math because they use a lot of math in their physical education. They don't teach like when I went to school where the basketballs were just rolled off the court. They actually teach very intricate lessons about health, about using math in terms of your breathing and your pulse rate and all of that. It's changed quite a bit from when my generation went to school.
And mine too. I got to say, there was no offense there for phys ed teachers. One of my favorite teachers of all time was Miss Pepe, and she was the best phys ed teacher I've ever had. She was the best teacher overall. Fantastic teacher. Hello, Miss Pepe, if you're out there. Mr. Michael Mulgrew, thank you for coming on this morning. Always appreciate you on this very important topic.